Archie and the Strict Baptists by John Betjeman. Archie and the Strict Baptists by John Betjeman. There was once an elderly bear who was Archibald Ormsby-Gore. He had a companion, Jumbo, who was even older than he was. Jumbo had not much character or expression, but Archie had a lot, and Archie's religion was strict Baptist. Archie lived at Garrard's farm, Uffington, Berkshire. He liked it there very much, as he had only to cross a field or two from the house to reach a strict Baptist chapel. He used to ride over slowly on a hedgehog. He always sat in the same high pew in the chapel. It had an anucapnic lamp fixed on the post, and the lamp shone on his hymn book and on his aged head. On winter evenings, 2 anucapnic lamps were on either side of the pulpit from which the pastor preached, sometimes for 5 hours without stopping. The longer the sermon, the more Archie liked it. Sometimes, when no pastor supplied, Archie would preach himself. He went on for 8 or 9 hours until the chapel was empty and only the anucapnics were left to listen to him. Archie was also an archaeologist, so he was quite happy at weekends. He used to ride out on his hedgehog carrying a spade. With this he used to dig up molehills which he considered were the graves of baby druids. They moved to another house high up on the downs in a tiny village called Farnborough. Archie preferred Farnborough in one way because there was no public house. He disapproved of public houses. There had been 4 in Uffington. But in another way he was sorry for the change because the nearest strict Baptist chapel was 7 miles away, down in the Vale. For days at a stretch Archie sat in a dark cupboard with no one to talk to but his rather characterless old friend Jumbo. He felt unhappy and forgotten. Through the window Archie would hear the bells calling people to church. They didn't make him want to go to church, because he disapproved of church, but they did make him want to go to chapel. And there he was in the highest room of the house, locked up in a horrid utility cupboard. There weren't even any druidic remains for him to visit on weekends. All around were just windy, empty hills. And all the time, down in the Vale was the homely little strict Baptist chapel, where he longed to be. It stood among pollarded willows. One evening somebody came to look in the cupboard where Archie and Jumbo lived, carrying an anucapnic lamp. The memories the lamp stirred up in the poor old animal were more than he could bear. He determined to go to chapel somehow. So when nobody was about, he went down to the kitchen. He opened the kitchen table drawer, which had brown paper in it, and sitting happily on the table under the fly paper, he cut out for himself some brown paper wings. Then he went to the edge of the downs and jumped. The few people in Wantage Marketplace who were not at church were surprised to see a bear with brown paper wings flying over the town. The chapel in the Vale was not quite so nice as the Uffington one. The pews were longer. The lamps were the more modern double burner chimney type, and not anucapnic. There were fewer people, but it was strict Baptist. and that was what really mattered. Archie sat in the front pew with his brown paper wings beside him. And in the gathering darkness, when the service was over, Archie flew back to Farnborough. He could just see the outline of the church tower and the Wellingtonian in the garden, away on top of the downs. It was heavy flying, and his brown paper wings crackled. He landed on the parapet by his attic window and took off his wings, one at a time. Back in the cupboard, Archie put his wings down beside Jumbo and spent the rest of the week telling him about the sermon. He flies to chapel every Sunday now and has nearly converted Jumbo to being a strict Baptist too. Archie and the Strict Baptist by John Betjeman.